Hello and welcome to the Financial Bunny TV. My name is Nicolette Mashile, and of course I am your Financial Bunny. What an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. And I'm so excited because I have you know when they say a dynamite comes in small packages? That's literally what I have on today's show. We have the pleasure of sitting down with Bells Tebello Motshwane. And I say Bells because that is what she's popularly known as. She's, of course, the founder of Sister-in-Law, and her job really is to try and make the legal matters in your life as simplified as possible. Now, if you've ever read any newspaper article you've seen on television, one thing you will know about Tebello is she will tell you, stop getting married in community of property. And we'll get into all of that as we sit down with Bells. Now, before we start our conversation, there's a quick game we're going to play. Bells, welcome to the show.
Hi, Nicolette. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to see you after many years.
Right? Okay, so we played 30 seconds here. It's called Save or Spend. You're going to pick a card. I'm going to describe. You're going to identify. Yeah. Okay, that's the card you want. Give it to me.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So you've got 30 seconds. I'm going to run the clock. I'm going to explain and you're going to identify, right? Okay, so go. Every month, what do you pay if you have a loan? What's that thing that we call?
Installment.
Yes. All right. So they give you a certain amount of the 7 days of the week, they give you a certain amount of those days to pay off a credit card before it becomes interest, before you start paying interest. How many of those days are there?
30 days.
Oh, wouldn't we be lucky? Okay, the last one. It's something that you get when you are finished giving your loan provider all their money.
A statement.
No.
Hours. You finish giving them all their money.
Yes.
Satisfaction.
I love that satisfaction.
You are happy.
Paid up later.
Oh, yes.
But you did exceptionally well. I always say when we play this game, it always catches people off guard because, like,
don't you get satisfaction after paying off the koloto?
You get it, but what about them?
Okay.
They still want your interest. But yeah, as I said, guys, Bells is known for telling all of us every single day. If you are actually following her on Twitter, which is X now, please do go and follow her. But please do not get married in community of property.
Yeah.
And we call that a marriage regime, right? What exactly is a marriage regime? Maybe let's start there.
Okay, that was a great introduction because that is my brand and I'm so consistent with that teaching. And if anybody doesn't get anything from this conversation today, the only thing that they need to remember is not to get married in community of property. So under South African law, if you get married without an antenuptial contract, which is popularly known as a marriage contract / prenup, because we all watch American TV, right? Then you are automatically married in community of property. The danger that people don't understand, though, is that even if lobola has been paid, but not paid in full, then you could be married in community of property and under customary law.
You
so
see, that's
before
what I wanted
the
to
uncles
ask. Yes.
even cause commotion at your father's gate,
Yes.
you need to ensure that the marriage contract has been signed if your intention is to not get married in community of property.
But can I write it myself or do I need to go to a lawyer to draw it up?
You have to go to a notary that is a specific type of attorney who's going to draft that contract for you and register it at the deeds office.
Yes.
If it's not registered at the deeds office, if you haven't done it with a notary, if you've done it yourself, if you've taken it off Google, you will still be married in community of property. It has to be executed by a notary.
Does it cost money?
It costs money.
You see, that's where the problem is. And that's what really
it saves you money in the long run.
It
but
does.
It costs money.
Because what I really want us to speak about, Bells, and the crux of this conversation is where does marriage transect? Where do they transition? No, that's not transcend your finances and your marriage. And let's be fair, is marriage a financial transaction?
Absolutely. It's a financial transaction because for a long time, let's say, you're a single woman or whatever. For a long time, you're only worried about your own finances.
Yes.
Your own bills, your own black tax, your own expenses, your own, well-being, your cost of living. Once you get married, you're obviously inviting a person into that, right? Now it's not just you. You're not going to be oblivious to the fact that that person has their own black tax. They have their own needs. They have their own expenses. They have their own bills. They were a complete human before you guys became one. And now when you get married, you become one. And whether you're married in or out of community of property, another person's spending habits or financial habits, their financial well-being will affect you. whether you are married in community of property or not. But you want to safeguard yourself by making sure that you're not married in community of property.
But why was it even introduced in the first place?
Why is it automatic? I don't know.
Why is it automatic? Who was it trying to
People
protect?
should opt into community of property, right? But I mean, if we just take it back, women weren't working back in the day, right? And naturally speaking, men were the providers, right?
Okay.
And when you got married, you became
him.
Yes, you became his child, basically.
That is...
You had no rights. You couldn't acquire property in your own name. You couldn't acquire cattle in your own name. The chief would actually even give the land to the man.
The man, yes.
Who inherited the firstborn boy child, right? So all of that, the women have always been children. So when you're married in community of property, you become one. And I think that's the only explanation that I have. But also, I want to take it back a little bit to just explain the consequences of being married in community of property and why I'm so against it. And I'm actually going to approach it from the perspective of debt. If you are married in community of property and one of you are in financial distress, let's say you are even facing insolvency, first of all, you both have to go under debt review.
Yes.
If the other party is indeed declared insolvent, it affects you as well.
Now you can't take out credit.
Now you can't take out credit because you have what's called a joint estate. So a joint estate is Nicolette comes with her bananas and Jabu comes with his oranges. We put them all in a fruit basket. But if there is a worm,
it affects all of us.
Creditors. If there's a worm,
my bananas
the whole basket is going to be affected. It's not only going to pick at the oranges. It's not only going to pick at the bananas. Jabu's oranges become your bananas. Everything is taken by the worms. Everything is a mess. So if Jabu gets into a partnership and that partnership goes south, they are coming for your house. You're going to argue, but the house is in my name. The creditors are going to argue, but you're married in community of property.
And Jabu's going to have children out of the marriage that we must take care of. And when
Jabu has children out of the marriage, even before you met or during the marriage, if he stepped out of the marriage and he's got children and he becomes unemployed and the baby mamas get a maintenance order against him and Jabu says, the court is going to say, oh, great, you don't have money, but here's Nicolette. She's got a thriving business and there is money coming in. There are fruits coming into this basket. So we're going to take these little fruits and give to little Jabus, regardless of who they belong to. You are supporting your stepchildren and the children you didn't even know existed.
You're saying too much. Hold on.
The children you didn't even know existed.
Let's take it a couple of steps back because yes, you've said a lot and I'm already like, listen, I'm going to put away this iPad. We're not going to go through those questions. We're going to go through what you've just said.
Yeah.
So you are saying in essence, and there was something quite important. Even the kids that I did not know
the kids that you didn't know of, literally Shirley can come along and be like, Jabu, I need you to support this child. Jabu's going to go back and forth. Shirley, you know I don't work. And also my wife doesn't even know about little Jabu. Right? Shirley's going to go to maintenance court. She's going to get her maintenance order. The wife is going to be subpoenaed. And they want your 6 months bank statement, even up to a year. And they're going to see that you've built a very successful career. There are fruits coming into this basket. Whatever Jabu's eating, little Jabus must also eat. It doesn't matter how it's coming into the basket. As long as it's in the basket, it now belongs to little Jabu's failed businesses, his partnership that went south. That's going to pay off those loans that they were taking out in the partnership with his friend. It's a mess.
No, it really is a mess. And I think it makes it even more of a mess because a lot of society is getting married a little bit more older versus in the past where our parents got married at 2022, right? So I am coming in with assets. I'm coming in with history.
You're coming in with history. Yes. And unfortunately, the history is going to go to little Jabus if you are not careful, if you are not having the conversations that need to be had about your finances, if you are not signing that marriage contract, you guys become one. Just remember one basket. When the worms come, they are coming for everything. Who are the worms? It's the creditors. It's the little Jabus.
The little Jabus. I need the little Jabus to relax. Okay, so Bells, you say don't get married in community of property. What are my options?
Once you've signed that marriage contract, the antenuptial contract, you can choose whether you want to get married with accrual or without accrual.
Okay.
With accrual means that you guys both retain your respective estates, right?
Okay.
So everything you came with, your bananas remain yours. Jabu's remain his.
Yes.
But if you guys get apples during
Together.
the marriage,
Yes.
then that apple is what's going to be split 50-50 at the end of the marriage, whether through death or divorce. Now, when the worms come, they're not going to actually affect anything.
That I came with.
They're not going to affect your bananas that you came with. They're not affecting, well, they'll affect his oranges if he's the one in financial ruin. But at least you know that you will never have to pay his debts.
Okay. And then what is the extreme end? Could I get without accrual?
Yeah. So with accrual, there are certain things that you can exclude.
Okay,
right?
okay.
If you come in and you say, actually, I really do want to build with Jabu, but we are not touching my pension.
Yes.
You're going to say, we're not touching my pension. We're not touching my retirement annuity.
We're not touching
and
my
we're
business.
not touching my first flat. Let's say you've got an apartment when you first started working and now it's fully paid. You can exclude those certain things.
Okay.
Your business is already excluded unless you're a sole proprietor.
Yes.
So your business in itself, so if you have assets under your PTY,
Yes.
so you bought a company car, you've bought office space,
Yes.
whatever you've purchased under your company
Yes.
or your trust,
Yes.
which everyone should prioritize getting a trust.
Okay.
Then those assets will never be touched no matter what happens.
Okay. Yes.
So when, let's say, Jabu gets into debt or whatever the case is, or he's got a maintenance order against him, they're not coming for you because you were smart. You got yourself a marriage contract. They're never going to come for you. But everything that you guys have built together, that's going to be split 50-50 between the two of you in the event of a divorce or in the event of death. The best way to explain that is that the person whose estate has shown the least growth during the marriage is going to get half of the difference between the two estates. So let's say at the end of the marriage, Nicolette was smart. She started an app.
And I was about to say, I watched apple cider vinegar. So I'm like, guys, we're starting wellness apps, okay? Yes.
You started a financial wellness app.
Yes.
And let's just say for some or odd reason, you decide, I need to sell this app. I'm not mad.
It's not working out. Yes.
No, actually, it's so successful that now
that is acquired by
the big, I don't even want to mention names.
Yes.
They've now acquired your app, right? And out of this, you get, let's say, 7 million payout. But during the marriage, the growth of Jabu's is less than yours. And at the end of the marriage, his estate is only worth 1 million. That 1 million is subtracted from your 7 million, and the 6 million is going to be split 50-50. Yeah, that's the apple, Akir. That's the apple. You built it together.
Yeah,
It's after the date of marriage. So everything that you acquire after the date of marriage gets put into a pool, if I can put it that way. I just don't want to use the basket analogy, but let's use that.
Yes.
Those apples then get put into their own pool.
Yes.
Maybe, yes, you've now come with 7 apples from your 7 million, and he still only has 1. The law is saying, okay, because he was in it with you after the date of marriage, let's split these apples in half.
So Chomi doesn't work hard on his things. I work so hard on my things. And then Nayaga, it becomes successful. Then he divorces me. And then I must give him the half of my difference.
Yes, but he can only get half of your difference if he has 1 rand to his name. If he has more liabilities than assets, then he's technically insolvent.
Yes.
So he doesn't get to then say, I've squandered my money, and now let me just quickly tell Nicolette that I want a divorce so that I can get half of the difference. No, it doesn't work like that. He has to at least come with 1 rand.
Okay.
So even 1 rand against the 7 million means that 6,999,999 whatever is going to be split.
I would rather that, because then at least there's some level of encouragement to say we must both try and make whatever we are putting together work. You know what I mean? Versus somebody just deciding to relax and say, I don't need to do much because my wife is a hustler.
The most important thing, though, is to always remember that maybe specifically in the context of a divorce, the person you marry is not the person you divorce.
That's true.
And
people can be mean.
And even though during that marriage, the person was hyping you and whatever, they're going to use that to their advantage at the end, because now at the end, we're only thinking about ourselves, right? So there's always going to be the element of I'm going to show her who I am, and then it's going to be a fight. But the law is the law. So those apples, you are going to split them, unfortunately.
Okay.
Obviously, when it comes to, let's say that the difference is not so much, the parties always just then agree, just go with what you have, I'll go with what I have. Because you might find that, your estate is worth 7 million, his is worth 6.5. That 500,000, you're like, okay, bye-bye. Let's just cut our losses. The nice thing about that is that no matter what circumstances the other person gets into financially, it's never going to affect you, especially when it comes to debt.
Okay.
Yeah. Then there's the extreme, which is out and out. So it's out of community of property without
accrual. Okay.
You go with your bananas, he goes with his oranges, and that's that on that. There's no claim against each other's estates.
And there's no loophole like the one you've just explained.
And there's no loophole.
Okay.
But there's an exception. If we're married out of community of property, and let's say in the beginning, Jabu was actually doing quite well, and then COVID came and he had to shut down the doors of his business, and now for the most part, he does not have an income. But he was very supportive in your journey of building your financial
Okay, but how are we going to
app.
prove that he was supportive?
Well, he's going to...
He didn't make me scuff tea.
Well, maybe he did, right? But
Yes,
let's say every
he
time
was,
you had
yes.
Interviews...
He drove me around.
Or driver around.
Yeah.
The kaftin, whatever, straightening your weave, whatever the case is, holding the mirror up so that you can put your makeup on. He was there.
Yeah.
He was playing a supportive role. He was saying, okay, Nicolette, you've now got a conference in Cape Town. This week, I'll take the kids to school.
Yes,
I mean,
okay.
naturally, he must do that, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say he's not sitting at home.
Let's just say he was an actual husband.
But let's say he was an husband and he's active.
Yes.
At the end, he can say, I was depending solely on
This
Nicolette.
person.
So please can I get a spousal maintenance until such time as I've remarried or I'm back on my feet. And the court, in certain instances, it's not automatic that you'll get spousal maintenance.
Okay.
But in certain instances, the court will look at various factors. Let's take it from, let's say now you and Jabu are elderly. Obviously, if you guys are divorcing at age 55, but for the past 10 years, he's been relying on your income solely, the chances of him getting a job at age 55 are very, very slim,
Absolutely
right?
is.
The chances of him even acquiring assets that he'd be able to pay off before he goes on pension at age 60 or 65 are also very slim. So the court is going to say, okay, this is the lifestyle that he was used to. And Nicole does have the means to keep giving him 10K a month. Nicole must give him 10K a month for the next 3 years or until whatever, he maybe gets into a business at age 58 and he starts doing well. Those are the circumstances, but it's not automatic. He has to fight for it.
Okay, I like that, and I hope that you can't shame the shameless. I hope I marry a man ongalang.
Yes,
that will be the favorite.
I love it.
He will just you know what? She can keep whatever she has.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm like, shout out to you, baby boy.
Yeah. For the most part, the law tries to be fair, and I think we must also, be practical and realistic, and we do know that in the world as a whole, right, women have fewer, income or earning potential.
Absolutely, yes.
Salaries are not even graded the same when it comes to women in comparison with their male counterparts. A lot of households it is actually the woman who's a housewife.
Yes,
Very few households are where the husband is, a house husband.
Sometimes even a housewife while you work.
Exactly,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So if I'm getting divorced and I'm married out of community of property and I was a housewife,
You need something.
You can't put me on the street with nothing.
Yeah.
Even if we were married out of community of property without the accrual.
Yes.
I can't go from a mansion in Sandton and then you now want me to go into a Zozo. It can't work like that.
Yeah. And I think it's quite scary because a lot of women I mean, both men and women don't know the law. Just that conversation we started off with, having to go and actually draw up this contract in the first instance, is sometimes that it doesn't happen. And then they find out this information in marriage. What are the chances of me changing my regime?
There's two ways in which you can change your regime. That's
Divorce.
My favorite question. Please don't divorce.
Okay.
Because what if Jabu doesn't come back and you actually really still want to be married, right? I mean, good riddance if he doesn't come back, right? In some instances, good riddance.
Yeah.
But let's say you do divorce so that you guys can get your pensions and whatever. And it's always such a good conversation. Yeah, let's do this divorce.
Yes,
Then
sounds clever.
Then we pay off our debts.
Yes.
Then you get your pension, I get mine. Then we pay off the debts, we renovate the kitchen.
And then we throw ourselves a huge wedding. When people start seeing
He's
their
not
money.
coming back.
Yes.
He then sees that when you were a nurse.
Yes.
And he was
Mining engineer.
mining engineer.
Yeah.
His pension is coming in there at 6 million.
Yeah.
Yours is coming at 300,000.
He's like, yeah.
Jabu Jaffa.
Gape sir jaya ka tjhelete mo sona.
You know, so don't divorce.
Yeah.
In terms of the Matrimonial Property Act,
Okay.
there are two ways in which your marriage regime can be changed.
Okay.
The first one is called a Section 20 application, which is made to High Court. This is Nicolette saying, I'm married to Jabu. We are married in community of property, but he is a financial wreck. He's a disaster.
Yes.
He has got a gambling addiction or an alcohol addiction. He's out here busy selling our TVs. He's just doing the most. You go to the court and you say, Jabu's actions are affecting the basket.
Oh, our estate. The
Joint estate.
Yes.
We cannot live like this anymore. I can see that we are going to end up losing our house to his addiction. So please can the court give me relief in the form of changing our regime from in community to out of community.
But does it have to be that extreme? Could it also be sometimes
It's usually extreme because the law is always saying you chose what you chose, right?
But what if you chose in ignorance?
Unfortunately,
my thing is
ignorance of the law is not remedy. So you will say like the court is not. Otherwise, everyone can come and walk to the court and say, "Hey, we want to change. Hey, we want to change. We want to change."
True.
Only to prejudice, the person that's
person.
been in the
Yeah.
marriage for long.
Yeah.
So because that one, Section 20 is a what is it? Let me say solo application. You don't have to do it with your spouse.
Oh.
That's why the court is very strict on that one. That you want to come and do this behind his back. And then one day you're going to be like, yeah, anyway, we are married out of community property.
No
He's gonna be like,
everywhere, nah.
what? So the court is
Oh,
very
okay.
strict on that one.
Okay.
It really is going to be in extreme situations and circumstances that you can change the regime.
Yes.
Then there's the Section 21 application, which is a joint application. So that one you are doing it with Jabu. You guys have had a conversation. You're like, listen, because of the nature of business that I'm in and because we've got, we've acquired all these assets under our joint estate, if something happens to me in business or for whatever reason I can no longer generate an income, I really do want this estate to be taken care of.
Okay.
And you have the least risk profile. Like
Yes.
you have very little risk. Let us change the matrimonial home into just your name.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
And then we can change our marriage regime to be married out of community of property so that in the event that things
Something
go
happens,
south, we at least know that we're never going to lose our home to the creditors because they're under your name.
Yes.
Yeah.
The children can be taken care of.
You just tell the court we were married when we were fairly young. Our financial interests have changed over the years. In order to protect each other, we now want to change our regime.
And this
The
has to be
court-
done jointly.
This has to be done jointly.
Okay.
The court is going to say, okay, the only people who are going to be prejudiced by this is the creditors.
Yes.
So bring your list of creditors, notify them that you are changing. Because
Okay.
remember, creditors can take from the whole basket.
Yes,
If
yes.
you're now changing your regime,
one person.
you're limiting who
Yeah.
the creditors can take from.
Yeah.
So first pay off all the creditors
Okay.
or make an arrangement with them to show that even after we've changed your regime from in community or out of community
They're not
property,
prejudiced.
you will still be jointly liable for these debts.
Ah.
Or we know for sure that you guys have agreed that only Jabu will be liable for, Wi-Fi and all of these other things, and only Nicolette will be liable for the house or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So that one is a joint application. You do it together. You change your regime from in community of property to out of community of property. Now, all these things cost money.
I was
right?
about to say, what's the cost though?
It costs money to change your regime. It also costs money to draw up an antenuptial contract before
yeah.
you get married, right? It's going to cost you more, Nicolette, if you come when things are already messy. It costs more to unbundle any mess in life. Even if you run a hair salon, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't want to spend money on manufacturing agreements, supplier agreements,
Of course, yes.
employment contracts, whatever the case
Yeah.
is. Now, when there's a mess, what are you doing?
So
You are paying for
and
litigation.
there's no contract.
You are paying for litigation.
Yes, absolutely.
Now you're going to spend 500K when you could have spent 5K or
Yes,
10K on a contract.
yes, I get
So
that.
I will always say being legally protected is just it's insurance.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You don't want to pay for that installment or that premium, but you're better off paying for a premium because if something happens and you've only had your car for 1 month, you don't want to be left with paying 900K for a car that you no longer have, right?
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
you'd rather do things properly at the beginning than for us to unbundle a mess. When you come to me and you're desperate, I can smell it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to play.
Yeah, and desperate people are dangerous people.
Whereas when you come at the beginning and say, Tebello, I've just started this salon business. I really need a contract. I'm like, because I know how difficult it is to start a business or whatever. Usually I charge 10K for a contract, but this time I'm going to be like, Nicolette, I can see, man, she's been pushing this hustle of from 10K.
Maybe I went to 2.5.
Maybe 5 or 7. How? 2? Girl.
Yeah.
I'll give you a discount. But if you come at the end, especially if I know that you know that I exist.
And I can see your transactions. Now I know there's money.
You've been liking my posts.
Yes.
You went and you got married in community of property.
Yes.
You went and you got married in community of property.
Oh, my man.
Now there's danger. Jabu has kids outside of the marriage. Now you want me to fix that mess for you. Now I'm taking advantage. You are paying the full 10K.
There's actually a saying in Afrikaans that says, "As jy dom is, moet jy voel." Because that's literally what you chose to be. Tebello, we're about to close off. Before we close off, and guys, obviously this conversation is just an intro into, the space of marriage regimes. There's quite a lot that I'd love us to speak about, and hopefully when you share your comments and your questions, we can squeeze Bells' time again. This time, we're premium consultation because I consult. If we have questions, we are consulting now.
This
right?
is actually a conversation to make you come to my
absolutely,
doorstep.
Absolutely. What other law do we have in South Africa that people are not aware of that can potentially wreck, financially, can change their financial status if they are married? What other thing other than marriage regimes that people don't realize?
I think the most important thing to do, whether you're married or you're single, you're a parent or you don't have children, the most other important document that you can prioritize in your life is a will.
Yes.
A will. South Africans need to come on board with this. Women need to come on board. We are in a position where we are the breadwinners of our families, right? Yeah. And even if you're single, I'll just give a quick example. Even if you're single, you've just started working, you get involved in a car accident, right? You survive the car accident, but you go to hospital and a simple procedure, there's some negligence, right? You end up dying on the operating table. Your single mom is in a position to fight for you, right? And she wins the medical negligence claim. She raised you single-handedly with your siblings. Your mom then wins that medical negligence claim, and 5 million rand is paid into your estate, right? If you died without a will that says, in the event that something happens to me, my mom should get everything, or my mom and my 2 siblings should share my estate, your estranged father, Jabu, when he hears about your death, he can come and he will automatically get half of that 5 million. You've never met this man, or you met him and he said, now, in your death, obviously the person who you would have wanted to benefit is your mom and the siblings that she's still putting through school. Maybe at that time your mom was even unemployed and you were putting your siblings through school. But Jabu comes along, your estranged father, and he gets that 5 million.
Sorry,
so
Jabu.
A will.
We're not doing this. Guys, please. No. Jabu.
Poor Jabu. Sorry, that's just the name, okay? It's the name we're committing to. But you want a will, whether or not you have an income or wealth or assets.
Yes.
You don't know the color of tomorrow. Like I said, you get into a car accident. That's not something you plan. You die on the operating table. That's not something you plan. Your mom wins this claim against your estate. 5 million pays into your estate. Jabu comes and he just reaps the benefits.
I want to stop it here because you've given me so much chills, and I think this conversation warrants us to have another sit down where you really take us through. And I mean, it's things like that. I always think about Section 37C of the Pension Act that we clearly just do not understand. A will, what can you put under your will? What can you not pull? Guardianship or guardian's fund, where if you do die interstate, it goes in there. How are your children going to be taken care of? But I'm going to let Bells go for now. As I said, please do share your questions, your comments. We would love to have her again. And as I said, next time when we're having a Kitlot we're going to first contribute, and then I'm going to send all of you guys to her to consult in her office, because at the end of the day, she's not doing this for her good health. She's doing this because that's what she studied. This is her expertise. And if, as she said, rather come early than come when she needs to unbundle. Bells, thank you so much. You've been absolutely fantastic.
Me. What a pleasure.
Oh, Love her, and I know you guys love her. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please do remember, none of what we have said here constitutes as financial advice or legal advice. It is purely for educational purposes, and if you do want to consult with Bells, she's absolutely available. Tebello Motshwane, sister-in-law. And please do go to their dialogues. They're absolutely fantastic. I'll see you guys on the next one.